final assessment. That's how I knew that was being pushed to the side, is you could tell that it was wearing on the brass bushing that I pressed in. The bearing that was dealing, the inside bearing there, that ran flawless, no problem, no noises. This here ran great until it obviously wore down. I didn't let it wear down to where it would jack that up. It didn't get to that point, but just barely started to rub on it, but that's no big deal. It ain't even deep. So anyways, this whole swing arm's gonna be gone pretty soon anyways, but for right now we're just trying to get it all worked out so I can make a kit for the guys that are out there suffering with this thing. Anyways, I'm gonna go press these bushings out and gonna take these bolts off and take these bushings back out and these roller bearings back out. We're gonna make a whole new setup now that we know it works. We're gonna do a whole new setup that is gonna be the final setup. So I'll set the camera up and we'll watch me disassemble this crap, I guess. Only use a blue Loctite, that way it's easier to break loose. The red Loctite, you need heat to get it loose a lot of times. The other thing is when you got a lot old Loctite on there, it's always a good idea to take a wire brush and brush all the Loctite out and get the bolts cleaned back up. That Loctite's made to attach to steel, not old Loctite. Still seems to grab pretty good if you have the old Loctite in there and use it, but not as good as if it's metal. Clean metal works a lot better. Notice I don't use an impact wrench or impact gun because you'll strip everything out with an impact gun. I mean, they work most of the time, but every so often they'll strip something out and it just totally train wrecks anything you're trying to do. So use hand tools. Build your strength. Everybody goes for the easiest route. Sometimes the hardest route is the best route. It teaches you more, especially in the machining world, that's for sure. Lord knows I've made my mistakes. And they're costly too sometimes, but the knowledge you get out of it's worth way more than whatever it is you pay to learn the mistake you learn. A lot of times it's nice just to learn from new people. It's what they call nice to knows. There's half to knows in this world, and there's nice to knows in this world. If you know the nice to knows, you don't repeat other people's mistakes. I had to learn that the hard way. There it is, done deal. Looks like it wore it out to where it's got a little bit of a lip right there now, so the sprocket won't come off, so I'll just have to file that off. Okay, made these two little Delrin bushings instead of brass in here. We're gonna put these Delrin bushings in here. I think plastic is plenty good for that position right there. I don't think you need anything metal on metal there. They use Delrin and race car bushings for the same, basically the same kind of application in swing arm, not swing arms, but A-arms and stuff. So these are more than adequate. Plus I think it'll make the bike ride a little bit smoother. You know, you won't get every little, you know, every little hit the swing arm takes won't transfer through to the rest of the bike. So anyways, I'm gonna push these in now. Okay. Got the Delrin bushings in there and got the sleeve all the way through, goes all the way through. That's the part that makes contact. That's the part right there, the inner race that makes contact. So anyways, that sandwiches it all together, and then yeah, swing arm pivots on this piece here, and the jack shaft runs on this piece here, and there's not a whole bunch of spacers in between, causing that stuff to bind up and make the bearing ride up on the sides of the races and make that clicking noise. This is how they, I think, should have done it. And you don't need a bearing in there. A bearing in there is just like a really bad idea. We'll test it out, see if I'm full of shit or not. All right, I got the roller bearing pressed in, and I got the other sleeve made for the jack shaft, and that roller bearing gets pressed in there. I'll go press all that in. Okay, here's the final deal. Got the bearings all pressed in there. Just put these thrust washers on. That one goes there. The actual thrust bearing goes on there. And then that washer there goes on. That ought to run pretty darn smooth. And it's the same thing like that on the other side. Now I'll go ahead and put it all together and show you. All right, we got it in. Should be able to just turn this thing by hand. Should be super simple. And there's no there's no side play, which is, there's a tiny bit, but not as much as I'd like there to be. But that is why we have this side over here that has that Delrin bushing. So it'll wear in, it'll roll really nice at about 20 miles, probably less than that. But anyways, we got the washers all down in there. Washers and thrust washer and the thrust bearing is in there. And then over on this side, thrust washer and thrust bearing are in there. And I can just literally take my finger and just roll it. So, and that's with the bolt. That's with this bolt completely tightened down. So now with this bolt tightened down, it's pressing down on that inner race that's solid and just totally making this whole apparatus totally rigid. And it should be super quiet other than the chain. You still get clicking because of the master link and stuff like that, but nothing like the jack shaft bearing crying. Anyways, there you go, man. We'll put it back together and ride it a little bit and see if it works.